Welcome back to Good Morning Greyhounds, Season 7, Episode 3.
I'm your host, Ashley Ellison, along with Cassidy. Today we have a special interview featuring Jatan and Johara. They will be joining us to talk about their experience as Vice President and President over the past year. We'll also get to hear a little bit about the upcoming election. How are you guys doing this morning? I know we just talked about how it's been a long start, but how are we doing?
Long start, but it's been good though.
Same here. It's been a long start, early morning, but we're managing.
So are you gonna is your day so far gonna slow down at all? Are you gonna get an early night or?
For me, no. We actually have the Black Excellence Dinner on campus tonight, so I'm a little excited about that.
I'm trying to see if I'll be able to do it. I got assignments on assignments, so being a student is first for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, it's about that time where assignments are picking up.
Exactly.
Spring break's right around the corner, though.
It's always like the 2 first weeks, or 3 weeks before spring break. We were just talking about that the other day too.
Yeah, this is just like the crunch time, like the weird one that's not finals, but it's like, you know.
I'm
like, okay, I guess
snowballing.
It's good though.
So let's go ahead and jump in to your roles. So looking back on this past year in student government, what are you guys most proud of that you've accomplished?
I guess I can start us off.
Yeah, go ahead.
So within this year, we expanded our board with 3 new positions. So we added a business representative, we added an honors representative, and then we also created a new position called the sustainability rep. So I'm really excited that we were able to get more coverage on our campus, but on our board. So it's important when we advocate for students. It's important that we hear all students, and the fact that we were able to expand those 3 positions, it allowed us to get more input and more feedback about areas that we may have not known about on campus.
Yeah, like keep that diverse voice active and going. So that's one of the things that I think we are very proud of being able to do.
And speaking of accomplishments, when you think about your goals for the year, what was something that started off as just one goal and kind of evolved as the year went forward?
I have ideas. I'm trying
You got them fast.
No, I'm trying to think of the evolving factors is where I'm kind of at.
Even if it was just something small that got bigger.
Yeah, so it's technically something that's kind of evolved through not just the academic year, but kind of last year. As you guys probably already know, we were on the board last year as well, and there was a student that came up to me about an idea that they really had for the perk. It was to do some sort of 7 brew energy drink on campus. And through that process, I've connected with, the reoccurring dining representative, Anthony, and we've been able to kind of work on trying to get that. We went through a whole bunch of channels of can't really do it because we can't do what was it, Red Bull, and because of the contract with Quest. And then finally it kind of evolved to, because we have Alani's within the Grab and Go, using the Alani's to do some sort of energy drink at the perk, and now it's actually happened.
I've had so many of the Dirty Dr. Peppers.
So it's really cool, and we were talking about this a couple of days ago as well, that how 2 years ago when we were on the board, this was kind of an initiative that was put into place, and then we were trying to figure out a way, but now that when we have taken the role, it actually has come to light. So seeing the evolution of that, it was really cool.
And the satisfying close to it, because I think it's really hard when you're in these positions where you really start to see the idea, and then finally actually having the opportunity to see the conclusion, I think is one of the happy things that I've gotten an opportunity to go and see. We have gotten an opportunity to see, so yeah.
For sure.
I'm just curious, because you brought up how a student came to you with the idea of making these kind of dirty sodas and maybe using Red Bulls, but our contract wouldn't allow it.
Right.
What sort of requests or ideas do you typically get from students, and how do you go about possibly making that idea come to life?
Yeah, so lots of ideas. Usually it's organic when a student just runs up to us and we're like, hey, I recognize you. I have this really good idea. I want to kind of explore it. And so generally what the principle of it is, you get the idea, then you bring it to the board, because any sort of idea or purpose needs to have some sort of diverse conversation about is this actually going to be useful to students. So let's say for the 7 brew idea, technically last year, if I can recall, it's been a second, slept since then. We go to bring it to the board. We say hey, a student, talked to me about doing an energy drink the board talks about it being like, that's lovely, or like, that's worse. We have better things to fry. Or, you know, have that decision, we vote on it as a board. There's usually a principle that we have where we at least need to have half the board members in the meeting and have a 2 out of 3 like approval on it to be able to approve of an idea. Right. So there is some sort of process that it goes through whenever we're making decisions, because again, we want to make sure that we're valuing what exactly is like what SJ is really about is, you know, diplomacy. I don't know what I was about to say. It's about, you know, making sure that there's like a diverse conversation and agreement that is happening within the organization.
Yeah.
And I'm sure with having to have a, you know, you said 2 out of 3 vote out of board members, there's got to be some challenges that come along with that. We're trying to find a middle ground. So what would you say were some challenges that you guys faced this year, and how did you navigate them?
I can speak on that. This is actually really recent that in one of our meetings, it was a sensitive topic and confidential that I can't really speak on it too much, but the topic was because we all have different opinions on things and we all have kind of different political views and kind of how we navigate those things. So, I mean, we took it to a vote, and it was someone that didn't really they didn't approve of it. So we just making sure that they still feel validated, I think, is a big part, and that you're not an outcast because you feel this way, that you are no less than the people who approved it. So I think when it comes to stuff like that, we just make sure that everybody feels valued and heard, and that because you disapproved of it doesn't mean you're like a horrible person. It's just like you didn't agree with it, and that's fine. So allowing that person to be comfortable in their decision and in that whole process, I think is really a good, I don't want to say tool, but a good thing that we have on our board, and to where like he didn't feel no type of way about it. So,
yeah. I would also say like a challenge that we've had in terms of like having what you said, like a very large board is, and the part about them all being student leaders, we are all so busy, like trying to schedule out meetings, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like why are you up at like 4 a.m.? I'm like, what?
No,
so trying to like navigate just being able to meet with everybody, because again, we want to value the part of, you know, making sure all voices are heard, even within the board itself. Yeah. So there's definitely those complications that occur. We've been able to navigate them. But I think it's something like that I'm recognizing, like, wow, like we just have so many amazing people in many different things, and trying to like be able to navigate, get those people in one room is something that I think that's been a struggle, but like we're able to manage for sure.
Trust me, looking at a Google Calendar of 17 different people and their schedules and trying to find a meeting time, it's like insane.
Hey guys, can you meet?
Seriously.
Like, hey guys, can you meet at like 9 p.m. by the way?
Yeah,
like,
totally
I'm like,
understand.
what?
A quick call.
Yeah, you know, it's those sorts of things, but it's good.
Speaking of making sure everybody's voices is heard, when it comes to students or faculty meeting with you, what is some of the feedback that you've received, and is there any that's like specifically stood out to you?
I think one of the loudest at this point in like from last semester and this semester, very transparent. There's been lots of things that's been happening with the RSO like budget approvals. I don't know if any of you guys are in any sort of budget or any RSOs, but there's been lots of like confusion navigating, especially with it being a new thing that happened. We didn't know that when we were going to become president and vice president that we were going to be taking on this role of approving budgets. And that's kind of strictly what our position is literally to go through RSO's budgets and be able to approve them if it, you know, aligns with what their organization's doing, if the money makes sense, those sorts of things that we've been trying to like navigate. And I think there's been a lot of like pushback in terms of that, very transparent, but lots of things is still stuff that we're trying to navigate because we didn't know how it was going to turn out. So I think we're trying to work on plans to be able to figure out ways where we can like work around that. That's at least been one of the loudest things, at least in terms of RSO leaders. That's kind of what has been hurting.
That's a good point. And we're making efforts. Like yesterday we sat down and we just kind of like, and it was like a old school way where we got a notepad or a paper and we just drew like a circle and then drew webs out of it. Like how do we structure this better to where our RSO leaders feel like this is not in shambles or it's not just all over the place, and that is structured. So I think that is one of the loudest concerns that we've been having lately.
Right, because our purpose, well, it's faculty and staff too for sure, but as like SGA, like our purpose is to kind of let students work on their academics. You're here to get your degree, right? Everything else should be like not a worry of yours, if that makes sense. So like trying to navigate those things to lessen the amount of worries or like, you know, push throughs that you have to like navigate, like that's something that like we try to pride ourselves in and trying to do. And with faculty itself, you kind of mentioned like how is like faculty, what was the question, by the way?
The feedback that you've received from students and faculty, is there anything that's like stood out to you about it?
In terms of, I don't know.
I think we, from the faculty perspective. I can't really think of it off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's some. Mainly, I know because we are student facing and because we do advocate for faculty too, but that's kind of where you have faculty senate. It's kind of different. So we're student facing, so we mainly hear concerns from students.
I think like one thing to be mindful with student government is that like obviously you have to, well, as my major is social work, I'm very, you know, about trying to understand like every system, everybody that's, you know, involved in some sort of thing. But my role specifically is student government vice president. There's someone out there, there's plenty of people out there that are advocating for the faculty and staff and being mindful of those, you know, boundaries that we have to also be mindful of. There's not anybody that's a student advocating for students besides student government. Well, there's others for sure.
Well, yeah,
for sure. But like in that like setting, if that makes sense. So I think that's kind of like the nature with faculty. There's been very supportive faculty, some not so much. And it's kind of like navigating those of pushing ourselves into those meetings where things are being discussed about students and being like, hey, so like, shouldn't I be in the room at the very least?
Where's your two guys?
Like, can I know? Or like, you know, so it's those sorts of things of like navigating as like leaders and especially within like the student government. So
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so you are the president and vice president, like you talked about.
Yes.
We all know that. And you've talked a lot about how you work together, but what's something that's different in your roles? Like you obviously have different perspectives on things. So what's something that makes you stand out from each other?
You can go.
I can start. So this is a good question. And I think we was asked this actually in the election process, but I know your question is for me to recognize the difference between us. But I think what's so unique about me and Johar, and last year I had the opportunity to serve as vice president, but I think what's so unique about our position and how we work together is that our best work comes from us being together. I think, now, I will say, and we don't agree on everything 100% of the times at all.
No.
But we work through it. We allow each other, like, what's your thoughts on this? And I may give an opposing side. So I know your question was for me to pick out differences. And I mean, yes, I may meet with the board of trustees or the people that kind of guide our campus, but when it comes to the work that we do, I think we work so much better and we cover so much ground being in partnership. So, I mean, maybe me meeting with Dr. Singh and those boards or on the Campus Master Steering Committee where we map out the 10 to 15 years, that may be the difference, but our best work comes from us together.
Yeah, we're definitely like a lot better doing it as a group because, well, I mean, that's, you know, in relation to any sort of like, you know, like research that you're doing or like projects that you have in class, like it's always better to work in a group because you're literally speaking the stuff out loud, you're at least conversing, getting another opinion. So in terms of that, like I think that we really do work a lot better as like a group.
Yeah. And then even
I think like the names, the titles themselves, like I don't like to always be like, yeah, I'm like the vice president of you all.
Yeah.
I like to work collaboratively, get in the dirt, like kind of understand what's going on. So I don't take it. We don't even take it in that kind of way.
That's valid. That's a really, really good point. And that's why I said like we can't really like
we were trying to think about it of
But
like,
it's like we work like, and then when we manage our board as well, like I don't manage one area of it, and she does. Like we collaborate. Like so in meetings that we have, I may talk, Jahara may talk. 'Cause we all put our input, and I think that's what a student-led, student-driven camp. That's what we need.
yeah.
Yeah, sometimes having that other person to bounce off of just really helps. So I like that you guys
Yeah,
are
yeah.
so open about not having the one specific role. I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you already kind of touched on it, but you mentioned that you guys may not always agree on a stance, or you guys may agree but have a totally opposing opinion to somebody else that's on your board. Were there any moments this year that really tested you as a leader? And you don't have to go too in detail, but like just a glimpse.
You remember
Why
that
we
one
humming
time when we were
But one time,
when we were bumping heads, like we were at a meeting, and I was like, no, this is so true. I was like,
I don't remember this.
It was no, yes you do. It was
Do
the
I?
day we had meetings all day. Like we were meeting back to back to back to back. And then I think it was our last meeting, and I was like, I have an attitude with you.
oh yes, and I called him out, and I was like, really, Jotan, you were kind of testing me, but I know, like, I want to give grace about those sort of things, because this is like a stressful position, you know, going meetings back to back. Literally, it was back to back, and then
all day.
classes, you know, those sorts of things. So, like, you know, I appreciate that he took the time to be able to be like, by the way, like, I'm so sorry that, like, I was having an attitude. And I think at some point I have had attitude with you, and I've also been like, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, it just, I think we've, from the beginning too, we talked like, we mapped out like, okay, we have to be able to come to each other when moments get rough. So I think our bond, our connection, it allows us to do that. So like, I literally, that day that I'm referring to, I didn't leave that meeting room without giving Jahara a hug and apologizing. Like, I said, I'm sorry, because it can be stressful, but I shouldn't be taking my stress out on you. So just keeping it open and
Keeping
actually,
it honest.
yeah,
like, I
yeah.
love things being blunt and just being like, okay, just really.
Like,
don't
I
like
had an
what you
attitude with
said.
you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, like, I'm just sorry.
I may have been
Yeah.
disrespectful. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely been times that we've like disagreed on things, but like the resolve of it, and also like even if it's like a difference of opinions on things, not even just like attitudes. Like if we have different opposing things, like I feel like we do a really good job, even with the board too, of like being like, hey, so like, I'm trying to see your point. Please explain it. It's not making sense. And just like going through it and everything and being like, okay, well, here's my point. It's how every conversation really should go. But like, I think that we do a good job on being able to do it. We're just so cool.
I'm thinking, I'm thinking about the time. I can't, because it's confidential, but that's the time recently that we've been dealing with. And I really want to talk about it, but we just can't at the moment. But I think that tested us, and because it's so important, and it's because it matters to so many people on our campus. We have to really think through it, and you're going to get opposing sides to this topic. So, and I may have thought some way, and Jahara thought a different way, but we talked through it. We seen what works best for the student body, because at the end of the day, we're doing our work for the student body.
For the students. It's always for the students. Yeah.
National politics, take some notes.
Sign me up. I'll be president. I don't know. I don't know if I would run. It's
Well,
too
you're
much
working
work.
for the students, and you talked a lot about how you work with the students, but when you work with the administration for the students, is there anything that's like stood out to you about that process or conversations that you might have had with them?
I think like in terms of like faculty and staff, like there's definitely like there will always be different people wherever you're working.
Oh, for sure.
I think there's definitely people that like help and support us and being like, hey, by the way, like I really agree with you, do this. Or there's also some that are like, you know, like I actually don't see like this, I think we should do it this way. And I think having those healthy conversations, even when you disagree, like being like transparent, again, like how we already just said, of like being like, hey, like, you know, I'm trying to see your point in this, like just being honest and truthful about it, I think is like the best principle to trying to do it. I try to pride myself at the very least of being like very like, not neutral, but like being very like, okay, so I'm not gonna like, you know, say you're wrong, but I want to hear what you're talking about.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, what about you?
I think If there's one person that I think of when you ask this question, it's the faculty senate president. She's also my professor, so she kind of guides me and helps me to kind of see it from a faculty side. And I don't know, just having those real conversations, like you mentioned, I think helps a lot. So, okay, so why does faculty feel this way? Or kind of, she gives me that opposing side, because also I think when it comes to faculty and staff, they have to think from it in a different perspective as well. Although their perspective cares for the students, it's just a different lens.
Yeah.
So hearing that side and from that lens, I think helps as well. So it's just healthy communication at the end of the day.
And I think it's important to know that even though we're like advocating for students and we're stressed and like, you know, concerned about these sort of things, the people that you will have to work with is the faculty and staff. Does that make sense? So like you can't come in and, you know, like being like, hey, I think this is how we should do it, and then you're not hearing their point, or like maybe the procedures and policies that are in place that you have to navigate that in the future with any career that you're in. So trying to work on like, where then can I make a shift, you know? And it's all about trying to do those small steps, because saying boldly about like, you know, I'm gonna do this is a little bit like, you want to take the time and the attention to these certain actions, because it's going to impact the students and the future students that come in, right? So, yeah.
That's a good point,
Yeah. And taking everything that you've spoken on, have your experiences changed the way that you look at student advocacy in any way?
I think so.
Definitely. I can say that without hesitation, definitely.
Yeah.
I've grown to have a deeper appreciation for our university and for advocacy work. Although my career is criminal justice and I want to be a police officer to help, I think serving in this role has opened my eyes up. Like, there's a lot of students that you have to encompass. You can't just do one thing for one group of students, because then you're leaving out this other group. So I think it has my view and my lens of advocacy has widened, if you will.
I think, like, I agree with you in the terms of, like, you can't just do one thing for, like, one group of students and not do anything for the other groups. But sometimes, like, I also think in terms of trying to make those changes, you might have to focus on a certain group, if that makes sense. Like, definitely agree with, like, advocating for all students, obviously. But, like, let's say if I wanted to work on something with dining. Technically, maybe that is all students, but not actually. It's any of the students that are eating at the dining hall. So technically, I'm not advocating for all students in that setting, because like I'm working on, you know, initiatives related to dining. Or if I'm, you know, wanting to do something about parking, like I'm encompassing, you know, obviously the parking, assuming that all students and faculty, well, obviously faculty, I mean, how they're getting here, but like any students that actually have a car. So it's not advocating for all students, you know what I mean? So it's you're trying to advocate for all students, but even then, even like lots of times when you're thinking of like advocacy, you're thinking about the undergrads. What about the graduate students? What about the adult learners that are like on campus? So like, even if you're trying to do like an event on campus, it's like, well, like graduate students, are they coming? Are adult learners, like, do they have the ability, like you know, being conscious of the transportation or like, you know, the time management, but also like, do they feel comfortable? Is the community there for, you know, different, you know, types of students, you know? So there's always like, I think in terms of advocacy, like I've always thought like focusing on everybody and making sure, but also sometimes to make like changes that are impacting one group of people. Like it is kind of in that spectrum, like you're not advocating for all students, but you are advocating for the students that are impacted by that, you know, barrier.
Right. And when we're looking at all the things that you guys have done over the past year in your time with the student government, what's something that people might not have realized that was you guys did that, something behind the scenes?
I mean, I don't know.
Well, you mentioned seven. No, you're fine.
Oh,
you
I
mentioned
did
Seven
mention
Brews. Seven Brews is a really good one that we kind of had an impact on. Also, too, we've tried to shed more light on dining as well. So we did it was like a 4-part
We
series?
did like videos pertaining to each of the spaces like on campus. So
Yeah.
one was like the perk in the library. One is the dining hall specifically. Another is like streets, Asada and Hannah. And then the last one was the grab and go. So
Yeah.
kind of going over those and like doing all of those like videos and stuff for them, because lots of the things that you like, there's not a lot of transparency with dining, and it's like a teeter of like, it's not that they're not being transparent, they just don't know how.
Yeah.
If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Or like how, like, I mean, I'm sure if you walk up to Philip, he'll be like, "Oh my God, here's this,"
No,
but
for
you
sure.
don't have that info. There's no information anywhere, which I also think is a general issue with UIndy. I will say is that there's not a lot of like communication or like ability to find information. Lots of information is not updated
Yeah.
in terms of things, in terms of like databases. So it's kind of like those.
Yeah, so those little impacts, I think, I don't know if people recognize that, like, okay, we're having these conversations behind the scenes. We're meeting our dining representative and our dining team, so like Johara, they're actually having conversations with Philip every other week to kind of figure out how can we change the ways of dining, how can we make sure that we get the dining, I'm trying to word this the right way. How can we make sure that we switch our dining to what students like? And I think kind of it brings me back to dining again. Streets, how they brought the was it Streets or Hannah Garden? The chicken that
Oh, yeah. Streets? Chicken?
Yes, you know what I'm talking about. The
Dining?
Chipotle style, the honey chicken.
Oh.
The honey chicken.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
So
yeah.
Anthony brought that up to Philip, and they were trying to find ways how. I mean, we can't really get Chipotle. Like that's just the
Right.
reality. So what are other avenues that we can take to kind of get a similar option? So it's just those little things and those conversations that are happening behind closed doors that.
I also want
we
to
have
give
impact
light
on.
to other people on the board. I feel like we're talking
well,
a lot about Anthony, and I love Anthony. I think another thing that students may or may not realize that we're working on, like kind of behind the scenes, is shedding light on one of the core values that we were on, transparency. Trying to find ways to let students know and have the space to also receive feedback on things. So we have town halls every month to have students come in and have a conversation about like, what are you guys even doing? Or being like, hey, I have a suggestion. Those kinds of spaces where we're opening up. It's a new thing, so we're still trying to progress on it. But I still think it's a wonderful opportunity for students to like, criticize everything. I'm not, I can take criticism well. I think
no
so.
hard
I
feelings
think
at all.
so. I hope so. So like there's those areas. So Madison for sustainability, she worked on that. So shout out to her. Also Piper, she is working on a newsletter to send out to students every month to kind of shed light onto what we're currently doing at that certain month. Some fun little things. Gotta have some fun, word puzzles.
Yeah,
I don't
so
know
I
why.
think-
That's fun.
I love
That's
a
fun
good
to me.
crossword.
I love a crossword.
That's what it was. I think it went out, yesterday? February? It was yesterday that it went
Was
out to
it?
students.
Yeah.
So students should have received that email, and it's pretty cool. And you can also, if you have any recommendations that you want to give us, it's like a QR code box that you can scan. And
Like what students want to know, because I mean, like from our perspective, we are probably doing as much as possible, but there might be things that like students want to know that we're like, oh, that would be a great idea for you guys to know about. But it's, that sort of things where we're trying to break through any sort of like, making sure that SJA is open and accessible to students. And we're working, it's a slow process, this is what, the third year that SJA has, been
That's
a
been
thing
back, yeah, that's
since,
true.
COVID. So like trying to go from the ground up and trying to like work on those things, you cannot decorate the walls if the flooring is awful.
and that's a really good point.
So.
So,
And you kind of already touched on it, like plans for the future, but with the future administrations, not just next year, but also, years to
Right.
come, what do you hope that they continue to build upon in the future?
I love this question.
Oh yeah. I hope that in future like SGAs and like boards, they're able to kind of like stabilize student government to where it's just a well-oiled machine that like it is stabilized. I think there needs to be more utilization of semester one, because like, I'm always transparent, guys, or trying to be, like making sure that we're using semester one as an opportunity to also like advocate for students, create things. We did do stuff in semester one, by the way, you know, there are things happening, but also kind of trying to prep the board before they step onto uni ground during the summer, so that we're also helping them with their initiatives. Because again, it's not just Jotan and Johara doing their things, it's a board. It's not just us that are the ones, you know, doing stuff. So I hope that there is a system to where, like, you know, the cycle of SGAs just flows comfortably. Yeah.
So it's a really, really good point.
I know.
I'm trying to like follow up with that. I just really think, and to everyone who runs and to everyone who says they want to hold these seats, right? I want future SGAs to know that this is just not a title. Like, this is, you have to actually truly have a love and a passion for the university. And I really want, because if you have that love, I think it'll show throughout the board and how you operate and the work that you do on campus. So I think for future, I just want them to have the love for SGA that we do. Like, we stay up endlessly. Like, we didn't go to bed till like what, 2 a.m. last night. Like, we're just constantly up, you know, always. So it's just, I just want them to have the love and passion for student government.
And to wrap things up here, why is participating in student government elections important for the campus community, specifically UND?
I think it's definitely like, that's how your university is going to look in the future, is whoever is in that position, they're the ones that faculty and staff are going to talk to, because they're going to more associate, like, if I'm trying to get like an opinion on something, I'll go to SGA. That's at least what we're trying to push with, you know, what the organization is that this is the group that you go talk to when you want to do something that's about students or relates to students in some sort of way. So I think it's very important to participate in it, because it's the people that are representing you, you know?
That's a good point. We were just talking to someone at the town hall about this yesterday too. It's your future. And I think participating, showing up at the candidate forum, at the debate, you get to see the candidates and the slate members who actually care about the university, or who knows about the university, and who has knowledge about the students and some of the students' needs at the university. And so being involved in that process, it eliminates the people who are kind of doing it just for a title. And it brings to light the people who truly have a passion. So I think that's why people should be involved, because it's your future. This is the people who's sitting in boardrooms with the president of the university, with the provost, having those conversations, advocating on your behalf. So of course you should want someone who aligns with you, who you think is going to go to the end to advocate for students.
And I also truly believe in like becoming your own advocate. So like if the people that are on like president and vice president, do you feel like you'd be comfortable talking to them about certain things, or getting support from when you're trying to make a change? Because technically, like SGA like doesn't need to be the people that are always doing the initiatives. Students can too. We can support that. Whatever you guys are wanting to do, we can support that, you know? So trying to be your own advocate and having people on SGA who would definitely support that is very important. You don't have to have the same views on things, and that doesn't have to pertain to like politics. It could just be things about, you know, SG or UND itself. So trying to be able to like find someone that like will support you, even if it's like they don't agree with it, like the people who have the heart to want to go and do that, I guess.
Well, thank you guys so much. We appreciate you. As students, we appreciate you and all the changes that you have made, especially to the park. That saved my life.
Yes, of course.
And thank you guys for joining us for this episode of Good Morning Greyhounds.
Be sure to check out all of our other productions on YouTube to stay up to date on all things entertainment, news, sports at UNT TV. Have a good morning, Greyhounds.